India is witnessing a full-blown crisis now in its neighborhood. Pakistan having a political meltdown. Sri Lanka facing its worst economic crisis ever that's now threatening its political stability as well. For weeks now, people facing severe food and fuel shortages. There have been long blackouts, often lasting for several hours a day. The army has been guarding petrol pumps to ensure there's no violence. The Rajapaksas are staring at deep-seated anger and resentment. But President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa have refused to step down. So what next really for Sri Lanka? Joining us on the program now, Sajith Premadasa, leader of the opposition of Sri Lanka and someone who's been a vocal critic of the government for some time now. Thank you very much, Mr. Premadasa, for speaking with us. In your opinion, could this present situation in Sri Lanka have been averted? Mr. Premadasa, may I request you to unmute yourself? We can't hear you right now. You need to unmute your audio.
Macroeconomic mismanagement and dubious policy-making decisions have resulted in a political, economic, social debacle in our country. Of course, it could have been avoided if proper decisions were made with relevant to the economy. I think the government in 2019 went on a spree of tax cuts, which resulted in loss of state revenue. International rating agencies put Sri Lanka down in the pecking order, and this resulted in Sri Lanka's inability to enter the international capital markets to raise refinancing loans.
Right.
So here we had to resort to our scarce foreign reserves, which were primarily aimed towards financing our essential food items, our fuel requirements, medicine requirements, and raw material inputs. So it's basically governmental mismanagement that led to this catastrophe.
But Mr. Premadasa, do you blame the Rajapaksas alone for the mismanagement of the country's economy?
If one observes the policy trajectory followed by the present administration, it is crystal clear that the mismanagement of the economy is a primary cause of the suffering of millions of people of our country. So it is undoubted, it is unequivocal that the present administration is to be blamed.
The family has had a huge wave of popular sentiment with them in the past. What would happen, in your opinion, if elections were to be held in Sri Lanka right now?
Well, of course, from the responses that we receive from the people, certainly there will be a change of administration if an election were to be held. However, it is the huge governmental majority that exists in Parliament that decides the course of action. However, in recent times, we have seen a number of government MPs converting themselves to the position of being independent MPs.
Right.
Slowly but surely it seems that the huge majority that is bestowed with, that this government is bestowed with, is losing its numbers and certainly traction among the people's opinions in our country.
So, as you say, Mr. Premadasa, 40 MPs have walked out of the ruling coalition and effectively the government is now in a minority. On what basis is it continuing?
Well, actually, we'll have to have a parliamentary test of confidence. So we have embarked on initiating a vote of no confidence on this present administration. And at the end of the debate, when it comes to the voting, we will see where the numbers lie. We as the opposition will continue to persist in representing the people of our country, the silent majority. We will be the voice of the voiceless, and we will ensure that as the democratic opposition, that we continue to represent the grievances, the expectations, and the feelings and sentiments and emotions of the people of our motherland.
Mr. Premadasa, you speak about being the voice of the voiceless, but right now what we seem to be seeing on the streets of Sri Lanka are young people fueling street demonstrations with the help of social media. These appear to be unprecedented, spontaneous protests without a specific leader or sort of central figure guiding them. In a sense, what is it that the opposition is hoping to do that the people aren't already doing, forced to protest in what is clearly an untenable situation now?
Well, it is true that there is an organic growth of citizens who are moving to the streets to protest. It is because the suffering is endless. It is because the pain and harm that is caused to people, lives and livelihoods that has resulted in this huge people-oriented juggernaut.
Right.
As a responsible opposition, we have strived to be the next best alternative, the governing alternative, or the alternate government. And now and in the future, we will continue to represent the will of the people and their expectations.
Mr. Premadasa, as far as we can see, the protests in Sri Lanka, barring a few instances, of course, have been largely peaceful. But is there a real possibility that they could turn violent? And, how do you prevent a situation like that?
Sri Lanka is a democracy. In a democracy, voices of the people have to be heard. That's a major democratic principle. So in this vibrant democracy, there is absolutely no room for violence, for rioting. It is a voice that is valuable. The voices of the people has to be heard. The government has to take cognizance of the people's grievances. If the government continues to ignore the massive outcry, then I'm afraid some interested sections and parties may resort to unwanted tactics and techniques, which is unforgivable. Time has come for protests and demonstrations to be democratic and peaceful. And time has come for the government to listen to the massive uprising that is taking place in their own doorstep.
Sajith Premadasa, thank you very much indeed for speaking with NDTV.
Thank you.